17 seconds. That's how long the room laughed at me. I counted every one. The Hilton Skyline Ballroom glittered like a jewel box, crystal chandeliers, gold-trimmed tables, live jazz humming over the clink of champagne flutes. 60 clients and executives dressed in black tie, and me, Lena Brooks, in a burgundy silk dress I'd spent 2 hours convincing myself was powerful. Ethan didn't give me even 2 seconds of dignity. He stepped in close, the smell of top-shelf bourbon trailing off his breath, and jabbed a finger so close to my chest the fabric trembled. "Stop acting like you own me, Lena. You don't get to tell me where I go or who I'm with." The laughter started instantly, loud, sharp, delighted. Logan Pierce slapped the table. A Northbridge client snorted. Someone at the bar actually choked on their drink. The jazz band faltered, the saxophone squeaking like it had swallowed the same humiliation I was choking on. I stood frozen under the chandeliers, smile glued to my face the way a mask sticks to a performer who's dying behind it. Second 4. A woman whispered, "Damn." Second 7. Cameras lifted, phones angled just right to catch the moment my marriage cracked open. Second 10. I spotted her, Chloe Ramirez, in a burgundy dress suspiciously close to mine, watching from the edge of the bar. Second 15. Ethan smirked like he'd won something. Second 17. The laughter died, but the humiliation didn't. My hand shook around the champagne flute. Not from sadness, no, that had burned out months ago, but from something colder. He expected a meltdown, a scene, tears he could later call proof I was the crazy, controlling wife. Instead, I placed my glass on the marble table. The click echoed louder than the band. I straightened my shoulders, felt the room tilt toward me, and said, calm, steady, surgical, "You're right, Ethan. We're not together anymore." Silence ripped through the ballroom. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Even the bartender stopped wiping a glass. Ethan blinked, confused because men like him always understand the blow 5 seconds too late. I didn't wait for his reaction. I turned, walked out of the ballroom, out of the Hilton, and out of the version of myself who tolerated him. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from, and hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by someone who should have had your back. People think humiliation happens in one moment, the big public blow, the dramatic fight, the betrayal caught on camera. But the truth? It's slow. It leaks in drop by drop until you're drowning, and somehow still telling yourself you're fine. If you'd asked me 5 years before that Hilton ballroom who I was, I would have said, "I'm Ethan's wife." Not because he made me say it, because I genuinely believed it. I built my identity around supporting him, smoothing his edges, filling his gaps. When he rose, I felt like we rose. When he got promoted, I felt the win, as much as he did. That's how you lose yourself. Not through force, through habit. We met like a cliché, two ambitious nobodies at a networking mixer, pretending to be more interesting than we were. I was 24, wearing a blazer 2 sizes too big, clutching a lukewarm beer someone handed me because I looked uncomfortable. Ethan spotted me slipping out onto the hotel balcony for air. "You look like you just got drafted into a cult," he joked, leaning on the railing beside me. "Corporate offsite," I said. "Close enough." We talked for 2 hours. It felt easy, natural, like meeting someone who didn't need me to be shiny or exceptional, just present. That feeling alone can glue you to a person long after they stop deserving you. The early years weren't glamorous. We lived in a tiny apartment where the radiator whined like an angry ghost every night. Our upstairs neighbor was either practicing Olympic weightlifting or actively trying to break through the floorboards. We ate cheap noodles, saved coupons, fought about laundry, made up over greasy diner pancakes at 2 a.m. It was real. Messy. Kind of beautiful. Then my dad died. It didn't feel real at first, just a phone call, a silence, a collapse into the kitchen chair. My dad was the kind of man who could outwork men half his age, who smelled like sawdust and cigarettes and coffee. The idea of his heart giving out felt like a joke the universe was too bored to land properly. But grief has a way of stripping you raw, and in that stripped state, people's colors show. Ethan was doting at first. Sweet, held my hand at the funeral. Told the pastor stories about how my dad taught him to use a power drill. But behind all that softness was something else. A spark of opportunity he didn't bother to hide. Because after the funeral came the inheritance. My dad left me his biggest project, Penthouse 21B of Skyline Tower. A full panoramic view of the city. hardwood floors he'd installed himself, a place he once showed me, saying, "One day, Lena, pick a home that lifts you, not one that drains you." I didn't know he meant it literally. The deed was in my name, the trust money too. Enough to build a cushion so I wouldn't grind myself into dust like he had. It should have given me freedom. Instead, it gave Ethan a stage. The first weeks in 21B were an adventure. We unpacked boxes under the echo of empty rooms. Noah, my brother, hauled furniture, while Ethan filmed everything like we were the stars of a glossy lifestyle vlog. "This is what happens when you don't settle," he said, spinning in the middle of the living room with his arms spread wide. But the story shifted quickly. The first time Ethan introduced the apartment at a work dinner, he said, "When I finally got that promotion, we upgraded in a big way." I glanced at him sharply. He brushed it off. "It's a story, babe. People don't want to hear about inheritances. They want grit." So I let it slide. One lie. One tiny rewrite. But rewrites have a habit of multiplying. Soon we upgraded became I bought, became I earned, became my place. Every retelling erased me a little more. Every joke painted me smaller. Every story cast him as the self-made man he desperately wanted to be. I didn't correct him. Not at first. Maybe not for too long. Because love can make you protect someone's fantasy at the expense of your own reality. The red flags came quietly. He started calling my career your little consulting thing, even though my invoices paid half the mortgage, all the insurance, and every emergency expense he forgot about. He accidentally used my inheritance to cover temporary business setbacks. He took meetings that ran strangely late. He came home smelling not like his cologne, but like hotel soap. The biggest shift came with Logan. Logan Pierce, finance bro, with a charming smile and the emotional maturity of a traffic cone. He hyped Ethan's ego like it was a stock he owned shares in. "You could be running your own fund by now, man," Logan told him once, clapping him so hard the dishes rattled. "Your wife doesn't get the vision. Your wife doesn't get the vision." A seed planted, a story rewritten again. By the time I noticed Chloe always around on Tuesdays, always too quiet when I walked in, it was already too late. Ethan had rewritten himself as the hero. And every hero needs a villain. In his story, the villain was me. Here's the part people don't like admitting. You don't realize you're being rewritten until you're halfway erased. It didn't happen overnight. It happened in the little moments, the ones you shake off, because fighting over them feels dramatic. Like the time Ethan asked me to move my desk so his new golf clubs could have aesthetic space. Or the week he accidentally forgot to put me down as a spouse on his company insurance renewal. Or when I overheard him tell a coworker, "Yeah, Lena's smart, but not finance smart. She gets overwhelmed." Overwhelmed. A polite way of calling someone incompetent. I kept adapting. That's what women do in long-term relationships. We bend before we ever consider breaking. But the bending got painful. One night, I was working late, redrafting a pitch deck for a client who kept changing their mind. Ethan came home buzzing with excitement. "Logan and I found a massive opportunity," he announced, throwing his jacket over the couch instead of hanging it. "Crypto arbitrage. Practically free money. We just need investors." Investors. Plural. "How much are you thinking?" I asked, already bracing myself. 50,000. I dropped my pen. 50, Ethan. That's not pocket change. That's my dad's. Our future. He cut in. "You said you believed in me. So believe." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something in his eyes wasn't excitement. It was hunger, sharp, bottomless, desperate hunger for validation that no amount of success would satisfy. "What if it fails?" I asked quietly. "It won't," he snapped, "unless you sabotage it." Sabotage. It was the first time he used that word. It wouldn't be the last. He stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. I sat at the kitchen island, staring at the dark screen of my laptop, wondering how taking a breath in my own home suddenly felt like trespassing. The next morning, I still made his coffee. Automatic. Ritual. Submission disguised as love. But the cracks were showing. A few weeks later, I came home early from a client meeting. I stepped off the elevator, and the hallway smelled like perfume I didn't wear. Sweet, powdery, young. Chloe walked out of the service stairwell, phone pressed to her ear, eyes wide when she saw me. "Oh, Miss Brooks, I was just delivering paperwork to Mr. Cole." Paperwork. In heels. On a Tuesday. At 3 p.m. To our front door. I didn't confront her. I didn't confront him either. I just stored the information away like a loose puzzle piece I didn't know how to fit yet. But the puzzle kept building itself. The late nights multiplied. The explanations got thinner. The insults got sharper. You're paranoid. You're reading into nothing. God, Lena, not everything is about your dad, but everything was about my dad. He had built our home literally. He had built my spine figuratively, and I could feel that spine bending in ways he never intended for me. The worst part wasn't the lies or the gaslighting. It was the isolation. Ethan slowly turned our world into a two-person echo chamber, except only one of us ever got to speak. When I wanted to invite friends over, he said the apartment was too messy. When my brother Noah asked if he could stay for a weekend, Ethan claimed he needed quiet to focus on a big project. When I suggested we go on a trip, he said we couldn't afford it right before buying himself a limited edition watch for motivation. One night, I tried to talk to him seriously. Ethan, I feel like I'm disappearing in this marriage. He didn't even look up from his phone. Then try being less dramatic. That was when the loneliness started. The real kind where you can be sitting 3 feet away from the person you love and still feel like you're screaming inside a soundproof room. By the time the Hilton event rolled around, our marriage wasn't dying. It was already dead. I was the only one still performing CPR. But here's the thing about people who rewrite you. They get sloppy. They think the version of you they've invented is the only one that exists. Ethan genuinely believed I was powerless, a woman too tired to fight, too loyal to leave, too soft to expose him. What he didn't know, what he had never bothered to learn, was that I grew up watching my father survive a world built to break him. I learned early how to spot cracks in concrete, how to track where pressure builds, how to rebuild from nothing. Humiliation didn't destroy me. It woke me. People imagine the moment you decide to leave as loud shouting, breaking things, dramatic exits. Mine wasn't. Mine was a quiet, surgical shift, the kind that doesn't explode. It clicks. The click happened in the parking garage under the Hilton, where the echo of Ethan's humiliation still rang in my ears. I sat in my car, hands trembling against the steering wheel, the burgundy dress pooling like bruised silk around my legs. My phone buzzed. A notification from Ethan's iPad, our shared cloud syncing. A document. TRANSFEROFOWNERSHIP2 1B DRAFT PDF. I opened it. My father's penthouse, my inheritance, listed under a shell LLC I'd never heard of. Owner, Logan Pierce. Prepared by Ethan Cole. Notes section. Once the condo is moved out of her name, she has no leverage. No leverage. Not partner. Not wife. Leverage. Something inside me stopped shaking. My pulse steadied. My thoughts sharpened the way glass does after it breaks the edges clearer. Dangerous. Unmistakably mine. That was the moment I chose a different game. The plan wrote itself with terrifying clarity. Step 1. Take back the physical territory. Change every lock, code, access point. Freeze him out before he realized he'd already lost the home he tried to steal. Step 2. Expose the truth not emotionally, but strategically. Send the evidence with timestamps, financial logs, and screenshots to the exact people whose approval Ethan worshipped. HR, the board, key clients, his mother, his brothers. Step 3. Starve his ego. Ethan ran on reputation. It was his oxygen. Remove that, and he'd collapse under his own weight. Step 4. Document everything. No yelling, no messy scenes, no vulnerability he could weaponize later. Every conversation recorded, every interaction witnessed, every decision in writing. Step 5. Give him space to spiral. Not out of cruelty, out of calculation. People like Ethan destroy themselves if you stop catching them. The Lena who made his coffee every morning would have begged him to talk, begged him to choose her. The Lena in the parking garage didn't beg. She evolved. The night after the Hilton incident didn't feel like a victory. It felt like an autopsy. Cold, clinical, necessary. I drove home with my hands still shaking on the wheel, replaying the ballroom humiliation like a loop I couldn't shut off. Every laugh, every stare, every second Ethan puffed his chest like he'd finally put me in my place. When I stepped into penthouse 21B, my father's home, the silence hit me harder than his words. The place felt unfamiliar, like someone else had been living there with my face attached to their body. I set my keys on the kitchen counter. They made a soft clatter, a stupid sound, but it echoed like a beginning. 12:48 a.m. I dialed the locksmith. Rosa Delgado showed up at 1:17 a.m., a woman in a faded hoodie and steel-toe boots, her hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. She looked at me, then at the penthouse door, then back at me. "You the owner?" she asked. "My name's on the deed," I said. "I need everything changed, deadbolt, smart lock, secondary latch, and I need the old keys disabled." Her eyebrow arched slightly. "Domestic situation?" "Something like that," I answered. She didn't ask more. She didn't need to. Women like her recognize the look in other women, the mixture of fear, clarity, and exhaustion that only shows up when you've passed the threshold of tolerance. While she worked, she told me about the worst job she'd ever taken, changing locks for a woman who'd been kicked out of her own house by her husband in the middle of winter. "Never again," Rosa muttered. "So now I only work for the ones doing the kicking." Her drill buzzed, metal scraped, screws clicked into place. It felt like surgery. When she handed me the new keys, she said, "Whatever he did, he doesn't get to do it again." I nodded, my throat tight. Something about hearing it from a stranger made it real. 2:05 a.m. The door clicked shut behind her. I stared at the brand new lock, a lock that answered only to me. Then came the next step. Ethan's exit. I went into the primary bedroom, the one he'd slowly claimed as his personal throne room, with his suits, his colognes, his stack of leadership books he never actually read. I opened his closet and froze. The smell hit me first. Cedar blocks, stale cologne, and something sour beneath it. Then I started packing, not frantically, methodically. Walter, the doorman, knocked gently around 2:30 a.m., holding a cart and 3 large storage bins. "Miss Brooks," he whispered. "Figured you might need these." Walter was in his 60s skin, the color of worn leather, eyes permanently tired but always kind. He'd watched me carry groceries through the lobby for years, always offering a hand. He had also watched Ethan storm through the building like he owned the place. "Thank you," I said. "No need," he replied. "Just remember, doors keep people out, but sometimes they keep people in. You're doing the right thing." With his help, we packed every piece of Ethan's life into the bins. His suits, his watches, his gym equipment, his fake award plaques, his old MBA textbooks he pretended to reference, his golf clubs that he bought to impress people he didn't even like. Every item felt lighter once it wasn't in the closet anymore. Ethan had a box tucked behind his shoes, the cardboard worn. I opened it. Inside was a gift I had given him years ago, a book my father chose for him, Ethics in Leadership, still wrapped in plastic. He never bothered to open it. I tossed it into the bin. Around 3:12 a.m. I wheeled everything to the service elevator while Walter hailed a car. "Storage facility?" he asked. "My brother's," I said. "He's holding a unit for me." Walter nodded. "You call if he shows up." He didn't mean Noah. We both knew it. By the time the bins were gone, the penthouse felt hollow but not empty. Air moved differently. My shoulders loosened. I could breathe again. At 3:40 a.m., I sat at the kitchen island, the same one Ethan used to lecture me from, and opened my laptop. I drafted one email, then another, then another. Evidence attached. Timeline. Financial analysis. The PDF transfer contract. Screenshots of the iPad sync. All neatly formatted the way my consulting clients expected. Subject line. Transparency for everyone's sake. I didn't send it yet. I scheduled it for 2:30 p.m., the next day prime corporate scandal visibility. Then I opened another message thread. The building group chat. A place where neighbors only ever talked about hallway noise and package theft. I typed, "If anyone has security footage from tonight after 11 p.m., please let me know. A personal matter." Within 60 seconds, Unit 21A responded, "Come by." Evelyn Grant. Her name wasn't familiar. I didn't know most of the neighbors beyond polite hellos, but something in the quickness of her reply felt intentional. I slipped on my sweater, tucked the new keys into my pocket, and walked down the hall. Evelyn opened her door before I knocked. Tall, silver hair pinned back, eyes sharp and amused in a way that said she'd lived 3 lifetimes and remembered all of them. "Come in," she said. "I've been waiting for the day you knocked." Her apartment was warm and filled with books, wall-to-wall shelves, plants hanging like green chandeliers, classical music humming in the background. She handed me a folder. Inside, printed logs of building security timestamps. Stills of Chloe arriving on various Tuesdays. Clips of Ethan pacing the hallway, texting angrily. Even a record of the night Ethan unplugged one of the hallway cameras, something I never knew happened. "You documented all this?" I whispered. "I'm a retired judge," she said. "Pattern recognition is my cardio. Your husband?" "A pattern." My chest tightened. Not with fear. With validation. The kind I didn't know I'd needed until it hit me like a warm wave. "Why help me?" I asked. "Because you remind me of my younger sister," she said. "Smart, capable, loyal to a fault. And because I don't like men who think they're untouchable." She poured 2 cups of tea bergamot, fragrant and comforting, and handed me one. "Lena," she said calmly, "you're not losing control. You're taking it back." For the first time all night, I felt the truth of it settle in my bones. When I returned to 21B around 5:12 a.m., the sky outside the windows had turned a washed-out gray. The city stretched beneath me, quiet and unaware that my entire life had just pivoted. I walked room to room, touching surfaces, reclaiming space. No more Ethan's shoes by the door. No more ties hanging on the chair. No more masculine minimalist aesthetic he insisted on, even though he never designed a single thing in his life. It wasn't a home yet, but it was mine again. I showered, washed off the perfume from the Hilton, washed off his words, washed off the version of myself that tolerated being rewritten. When I stepped out, I caught myself in the mirror, hair damp, face bare, eyes sharper than they had been in years. Ethan hadn't broken me. He had revealed me, and revelations have consequences. The sun was barely clearing the skyline when muscle memory tried to betray me. I reached for the coffee tin, pulled out the scoop, filled the machine, poured water to the line. My hands moved automatically, like the last 12 years hadn't just cracked in half. The smell of brewing coffee filled the kitchen, warm and bitter, familiar enough to make my chest ache. I pulled down the black Hustle Harder mug from the cabinet. Then I stopped. 2 sugars, no cream. Ethan's mug, Ethan's ritual, Ethan's day starter that I had performed for him more than 4,000 times while he scrolled his phone and grunted a thank you he didn't mean. I stared at that mug like it was evidence at a crime scene. Then I put it back. Reached for a different one, a chipped white mug with a blue rim I'd bought at a thrift store in college. The one he always called ugly. 1 sugar. Oat milk. The way I liked it. I took the first sip standing at the window, watching the city wake up. The coffee was too hot. It burned my tongue. I didn't care. The pain made me feel present, alive, here. At 7:03 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Noah, storage unit prepped. Code is 4557. You okay?" I typed back. "Ask me in a week." He replied with a selfie of him holding up a roll of duct tape like a trophy. "Whatever he left behind, we'll label it, box it, and stack it until it looks as small as it is." I smiled for the first time since the Hilton. At 8:11 a.m., another text lit the screen. Unknown number. "Miss Brooks, this is Jenna Park from IT. We need to talk about your husband." Jenna was the one who managed Ethan's corporate laptop, his email resets, his technical issues. We'd met once at a holiday party. She struck me as the kind of woman who noticed everything and pretended to notice nothing for her own survival. I called her. "Hey, it's Lena." Jenna exhaled like she'd been holding her breath all night. "Please tell me you're somewhere safe." "I'm home," I said. "He's not good," she muttered. Because after that scene last night, I started pulling logs. "Lena, he's been using company resources to fund his little side circus with Logan. Hotel rooms marked as client meetings, dinners written off as business development. And that transfer draft for your condo? He emailed it from his work address to Logan's company account with attachments." "Attachments?" I repeated. "Spreadsheets, forecasts. Your inheritance listed as initial capital, like it was his to gamble." The rage that rose in me wasn't hot. It was cold, precise. It sharpened my voice instead of shaking it. "Can you send me copies?" I asked. "Already did," she said. A ping hit my inbox. "And Lena? I'm forwarding everything to HR and the internal audit team. I'm done watching him treat the company like his personal ATM." "Thank you," I said quietly. "Don't thank me," she replied. "Just promise you'll burn this all the way down." After we hung up, I opened the files. Line by line, Ethan's fraud built itself on the screen. Every Tuesday, client lunch. every off-site strategy meeting, every suspicious hotel charge neatly buried under jargon. He thought he was clever. He was sloppy. Around noon, the first shockwaves hit. Ethan. Why is my key not working? He'd left the party with Logan and Chloe, drunk on attention. Apparently, he'd tried to stumble back into 21B like nothing had changed. I watched the typing indicator blink, then vanish, then return. Ethan. Not funny, Lena. Open the door. I didn't respond. He called. I let it ring out. 5 minutes later, another ping, this time an email notification, CC'd to both of us. From HR Director, Crestline Capital. Subject, urgent immediate leave pending investigation. I opened it and read every word slowly. They were placing Ethan on administrative leave. There would be an internal review of his expenses, his involvement with Logan's startup, and his behavior at the Hilton event, which multiple employees had already reported. I pictured him reading that in the hallway, suitcase at his feet, realizing he was locked out of more than one place. The image didn't bring me joy. Not exactly. What it brought was balance. By late afternoon, the phone calls started. First came Linda, his mother. Lena, she began, her voice tight. What on earth have you done? Ethan is in pieces. You locked him out of his own home? It's not his home, I said calmly. It never was. That apartment is part of his success story. It's my father's legacy, I cut in. And your son tried to sign it away behind my back. Silence. For the first time since I'd known her, Linda had no script ready. I sent you an email, I added, with documents. Read it, then we can talk. An hour later, she called back. Her voice was different. Smaller, cracked around the edges. I didn't raise him to be this, she whispered. I almost laughed. No, I said gently. But you raised him to believe he'd always be forgiven. That night, Evelyn knocked on my door carrying a tray with 2 bowls of soup and a bottle of wine. You won't feel like eating, she said, breezing in like she'd lived there for years. But your body still needs fuel to wage war. We ate on the couch, legs curled under us like old friends. The war didn't look like fire and screaming. It looked like emails. Documentation. Quiet repositioning. Over the next days, my life split into 2 parallel montages. In one, I was rebuilding. I reorganized the apartment, room by room. I took Ethan's framed promotion certificates off the wall and replaced them with my own client thank you letters. I cleared his inspiration quotes from the fridge and put up sticky notes to myself instead. Remember who paid for this view. Your dad didn't break his back so you could shrink. You are not his leverage. I met with Northbridge Capital, the client who had witnessed my public humiliation. Their CEO, a woman named Elise, shook my hand firmly. We saw the video, she said. You held your ground. That's the kind of spine I want, advising our company. We need to rebuild our internal controls. Interested? Interested. The word tasted better than any apology Ethan could have given. In the other montage, Ethan was unraveling. Jenna would text me updates she probably wasn't supposed to share. He snapped at HR in the meeting. He tried to blame Logan. Logan sent emails proving the ideas were his. He said you hacked his iPad. It confirmed it was just autosync. Noah sent me a photo of the storage unit with Ethan's boxes stacked neatly, labels facing out. Looks smaller in here, doesn't it? He wrote. Piece by piece, Ethan's world shrank. Piece by piece, mine expanded. And for the first time in a very long time, the scales began to tip in my favor. The unraveling didn't happen in a straight line. Ethan didn't just fall, he thrashed on the way down, reaching for anything he could grab, including me. It started the morning after HR suspended him. I was slicing lemons for tea when my phone buzzed on the counter. Ethan's name lit the screen. I let it ring. 30 seconds later, another call. Then another. By the 5th call, I answered not out of mercy, but out of calculation. A recorded conversation is worth more than silence. His voice came through ragged, like he'd been yelling for hours. Lena, what the hell did you do? I didn't respond. Silence is a weapon too. He hated silence. It made him fill the air. You locked me out. You embarrassed me. HR says you sent emails. His breath hitched, uneven. You're trying to destroy my career. No, I said calmly. Your behavior destroyed your career. I just stopped covering it. Don't get smart with me, he snapped. You're acting insane. This isn't you. He always said that whenever I stopped doing what he wanted. This is exactly me, I said, keeping my voice icy. You just never met this version. A beat of stunned quiet. Then he dropped the act. I need to get inside the apartment, Lena. You can't legally keep me out. You're not on the deed, I replied. And there's documentation of you trying to transfer ownership without consent. So yes, I can. He inhaled sharply. We're married. That place is my home. Marriage isn't a magic key, I said. And you lost the real one. He went silent again. This time, it wasn't shock. It was calculation, him adjusting, trying a different angle like he always did. Okay, he said softly. Too softly. Let's talk, babe. Let's just talk. I miss you. I laughed. It wasn't nice. If you miss me, you should have thought about that before humiliating me in front of 60 people. His voice sharpened instantly. So this is revenge? This is self-defense. Click. I hung up. 5 minutes later, a text arrived. Tyler Cole. Lena? This is Ethan's brother. Can we talk? Tyler had always been the quieter Cole brother, the one who apologized for Ethan's behavior with his eyes, but never interfered. I agreed to meet him downstairs in the lobby. Walter stood behind the desk, watching the elevator like a guard dog. Tyler approached, clutching a coffee cup in both hands like a peace offering. Thanks for meeting me, he said, shifting nervously. He's not doing well. Not my responsibility, I replied. I know. He scratched the back of his neck. But he's my brother. And he's desperate. I'm just asking you to reconsider sending those emails to the board. I raised an eyebrow. He asked you to say that? Tyler hesitated. He said if I helped him, he'd pay off the rest of my student loans. Did he tell you he doesn't have the money? I asked. That he's been funding his lifestyle with fraud and my inheritance? Tyler blinked. What? Yeah, I said. Turns out your brother's generosity is just debt in costume. He sagged, literally sagged, like his skeleton gave up for a second. I knew something was off, he muttered. He kept asking me to sign as co-founder for Logan's startup. I said no. Thank God. Crew, good, I said. Run from both of them. Tyler looked up at me with a defeated kind of sadness. I'm sorry, Lena. I should have stepped in sooner. I just didn't want to believe he could do this. Believe it now, I said quietly, because this is who he is. He nodded, then slipped out of the lobby, shoulders slumped. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. That afternoon, my building intercom buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. Finally, I checked the screen. Chloe. She stood at the entrance, wrapped in a too-thin coat, mascara smudged, hair windblown. Of course, Ethan sent her. When his manipulation failed one way, he sent his next option. I didn't buzz her in, but I did go downstairs. Walter glanced at me. You want me to block her? No, I said. I want to hear the script she rehearsed. I stepped outside. The cold bit into my skin immediately. Chloe's eyes widened with relief. Lena, please, she said, stepping toward me. He's a mess. He's not eating. He's scared. Logan's ghosting him. HR suspended him. Everything's falling apart. Good, I said. She flinched. Look, I know I messed up, okay? I didn't know it was this bad. He told me you two were separated, that you were controlling, that you hurt his career. Did you believe him? I asked. She hesitated long enough to reveal the truth. Yes, she finally whispered. I nodded slowly. Then you'll understand why I don't feel responsible for fixing the consequences. Her mascara trembled on her lashes. Can't you just talk to him? He's terrified the board will fire him. They will, I said. And he earned it. She wrapped her arms around herself. I think he really needs help. He does, I said, but not from me. For a moment, she looked like she might cry. Then her expression sharpened. He said you're vindictive, she murmured. And he said you were just a friend from accounting, I replied. See how easy lying is? Her face went pale. This isn't my fight, she whispered. No, I said. It's not. But you walked into the ring anyway. I turned and walked back inside. Walter gave me a silent nod of respect as I stepped into the elevator. Upstairs, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. You don't know who you're messing with. Then another. Blocked number. Stop or we'll expose your father's past. You want that? I stared at the messages, long, slow, deadly calm sweeping through me. Logan. It had to be Logan. But I didn't text back. Because leverage only works on people with something to hide. And I was done hiding. The texts about my father should have rattled me more than they did. If you've ever had someone threaten to dig up your family's past, you know the feeling, that cold hand around your spine, squeezing old shame you didn't even know you were still carrying. My dad wasn't perfect. He'd been a foreman on more than one site, where corners got cut, paperwork got massaged, inspections got mysteriously rescheduled. There were rumors, brown envelopes, backroom deals, accidental injuries that got paid off quietly. He never talked about it, which meant the rumors grew teeth. Logan was betting on that. The next morning, I found an unmarked envelope slid under my door. No return address, just my name. Inside, photocopied articles from 15 years ago. A construction company investigated for safety violations and falsified reports. 3 workers injured when scaffolding collapsed. One of the names in the article, my father's. Someone had circled it in red. No note, just the circle. It would have worked on an earlier version of me, the one who still believed other people's narratives about my life. Instead, I grabbed my phone and called Noah. "Hey," he said, groggy. "You know it's barely 8, right? They're trying to use Dad against me," I said. Logan sent clippings. Noah went quiet, then swore. "Send me pics." I did. A minute later, my phone rang again, video this time. Noah's face filled the screen, jaw tight. "You remember how this ended, right?" he said. "Just that it was bad. Lawyers, Dad coming home pissed, Mom crying in the kitchen. Then, nothing, because he fought it," Noah said. "He refused to sign the fake reports. He filed a complaint with the state. They settled quietly because he was right, and they didn't want the PR nightmare." Logan's screenshot brigade conveniently left that part out. He reached off-screen, then came back holding a worn manila folder. "I've got the paperwork," he said. "Dad gave it to me before he died. Said, one day someone's going to try and twist this. Don't let them." The tightness in my chest snapped not from fear, but from something cleaner. Relief. Pride. Logan thought he'd found a weapon. All he'd done was hand me a sword my father sharpened years ago. "Email it to Monica," I said. "All of it." "You got it," Noah said. "And Lena? Screw them. Dad died with calluses and a clean conscience." When the call ended, I stood in my kitchen and pressed my fingers to the silver bracelet on my wrist, Dad's bracelet. It had become my unconscious tell, the thing I touched every time I made a decision that mattered. "Turns out," I said into the empty room, "he didn't leave me a scandal. He left me a template." That afternoon, Monica called. "Just read Noah's email," she said. "If they try to bring your father into this, we will bury them in documentation. Their little blackmail stunt just turned into Exhibit A. So what now?" I asked. "Now," she said, "we prepare for mediation, and we assume they're going to come hard. Threats, guilt, crocodile tears, character assassination, the works. Your job is simple. Don't flinch." "Even if they drag my dad?" I asked. "Especially then," she replied. "You come from a man who refused to falsify reports, Lena. Don't start falsifying your boundaries now." That line stuck. Don't falsify your boundaries. Because that's what I'd been doing for years, editing and minimizing Ethan's behavior, so it looked better on paper than it felt in reality. No more. The pressure built over the next week. Linda showed up at my door one evening, clutching a leather handbag like it was the only thing keeping her anchored. I almost didn't let her in. Then I thought of Evelyn's words, "Witnesses matter," and opened the door just wide enough. She took in the apartment, the missing suits, the rearranged furniture, the absence of Ethan, and sank onto the edge of the couch. "I watched the video," she said. "Both of them. The hotel and the condo hallway. I didn't want to believe it." "You raised him," I said. "I enabled him," she corrected. "There's a difference." She looked older than I'd ever seen her. "When his father cheated on me," she continued, "I stayed. I told myself it was for the boys. Really, it was for appearances. I thought if I ignored it hard enough, it would stop being true." "How'd that work out?" I asked. Her mouth twisted. "It didn't. It just taught Ethan the same trick. Pretend hard enough, and people will fall in line." She clasped her hands. "I'm not asking you to forgive him," she said. "I'm asking you not to destroy him completely." There it was. The plea. The assumption that, even now, I would protect him. I met her eyes. "He tried to destroy me completely," I said softly. "My marriage, my home, my finances, my reputation." He didn't hesitate. Tears filled her eyes. "He's still my son. And I'm still his victim," I said. But I'm not going to stay that way. We sat in silence. The city lights blinked behind her. Finally, she exhaled. What are you going to do? I'm going to tell the truth, I said, to the court, to his company, to anyone who needs to know. After that, what happens to him is out of my hands. She studied me. Then, to my surprise, nodded. Good, she whispered. Someone needed to stop him. I never had the courage. Maybe you do. When she left, she paused at the door. For what it's worth, she said, not turning around, you were always too good for him. I was just too proud to admit it. The door closed with a soft click. That night, in bed alone, the weight of what was coming finally pressed down. Mediation, legal strategy, public fallout, court, maybe. Part of me wanted to run, to sell the condo, disappear into a town where no one knew my name. But there was another part, the part that had watched Ethan humiliate me twice in public, the part that saw Chloe's confusion, Jenna's anger, Evelyn's documentation, the part that knew this wasn't just about me anymore. Ethan's pattern didn't stop at our marriage. It extended into his work, his friendships, his finances. Left unchecked, he'd keep doing this to other people. So I lay there in the dark, one hand on my bracelet, and made myself a promise. When the final confrontation came, I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't plead. I wouldn't break. I'd stand in whatever room he chose as his stage boardroom, mediation office, rooftop, courtroom, and do the one thing he never expected me to do. I'd outlast him. The storm was still building. But I wasn't the one about to be struck. New Year's Eve always had a particular electricity in our building, like the entire place inhaled at once, waiting to explode into glitter and noise at midnight. But that year, the air felt different, sharper, charged, like the universe itself knew something was about to break open. The rooftop of the Sterling residences had been transformed into a winter jewel box. Heat lamps glowed under canvas awnings. Strings of warm lights zigzagged the sky. A DJ mixed mellow house beats in a glass booth, while waiters weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne. People wore sequins and velvet, and suits sharp enough to slice through tension. But even with all the sparkle, the atmosphere held a hum beneath it. A hum directed at me. My heels clicked across the rooftop deck, slow, steady, unapologetic. The fire engine red dress hugged me like armor. Bold, impossible to ignore, the opposite of the quiet burgundy humiliation Ethan once preferred me to wear. I felt eyes on me from every direction, curiosity, respect, whispers I could almost hear. That's her, the one who locked him out, the one who sent the emails, the one who didn't break. I didn't look away. I didn't shrink. I walked like the place belonged to me, because it did. Evelyn spotted me first. She stood near the edge of the glass railing, wrapped in a chic charcoal coat, her silver hair braided and pinned. She lifted her champagne flute in a subtle salute. She looked like a general taking position before a war she'd already predicted the ending of. Walter steady. Silent Walter stood near the bar. Dressed in his formal doorman uniform, he gave a small nod as I approached. His gaze swept the room, alert, watching everything, watching for him. Ready? Evelyn asked as I reached her side. As I'll ever be, I said. She studied me for a long moment. Don't underestimate the power of being calm in a room full of noise. You're not here to fight. You're here to witness. I exhaled slowly. My heart beat in a rhythm that felt ancient and familiar, like the steady pulse of resolve passed down through generations. Evelyn's expression sharpened as she glanced over my shoulder. Showtime. I didn't turn at first. I didn't need to. The shift in the room told me everything. Conversations dipped, bodies adjusted subtly. Drinks paused mid-air. A ripple of awareness swept across the rooftop like cold wind. Then came the voice I knew too well, too loud, too performative, too desperate to belong. Ethan. He stepped onto the rooftop in a tailored navy suit I'd bought for him 3 Christmases ago. His hair was slicked back, his jaw freshly shaved, his smile stretched too wide. A wolf wearing sheep's clothing except the wool was unraveling, and clinging to his arm was Chloe. Her black dress shimmered under the lights, cut shorter and tighter than anything she'd worn before. Her makeup was heavier, her lipstick darker, her eyes darting as if she expected someone to throw a drink at her. People noticed. They always did with spectacle. Ethan walked forward with the swagger of a man convinced he was making an entrance. But the room didn't bend around him the way he expected. No, it stiffened. Conversations resumed not welcomingly, but strategically, like everyone was working to pretend he wasn't there. He didn't notice. Not yet. But I saw the exact second Chloe did. Her fingers tightened on his arm, her expression flickering with embarrassment as her eyes caught on a pair of residents whispering behind their hands. She swallowed hard. Ethan finally noticed me near the railing, his entire face rearranged. A smile, smug, self-satisfied, slid across his lips. He said something to Chloe, who clearly didn't want to walk with him but let him lead anyway. He was coming toward me. Evelyn didn't move. Walter did, subtly positioning himself behind me, the way someone would shield a queen on a chessboard. I felt protected, watched over, but also exposed in the exact way I needed to be. Ethan reached us with a flourish, stopping way too close, forcing Chloe to hover awkwardly at his side. "Happy New Year, Lena," he said, voice dripping with fake warmth. "Ethan." My tone was cool enough to frost glass. He grinned wider. "You look different." "Good," I said. His smile faltered almost imperceptibly. People around us glanced over not to admire him, but to measure the tension. Ethan didn't like being measured. He leaned in, like the old dynamic was still at play. "You really came alone? That seems sad." "No," I said calmly. "What's sad is thinking I needed someone with me to feel whole." Evelyn's lips twitched. Walter didn't react at all, professional to the bone. Ethan straightened, glancing around the rooftop as if searching for someone to validate him. But no one stepped forward. People avoided eye contact. Conversations grew just loud enough to signal, "We see you, but we're not with you." Chloe shifted uncomfortably. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Ethan dragged her closer. "I think you remember, Chloe," he said loudly. A few heads turned. This was his theater, his script, his attempt to flip humiliation back on me. I kept my expression neutral. "Yes," I said. "I remember the third Tuesday of every month." Chloe froze. Ethan's smile cracked. "You don't have to do this," he muttered, eyes flicking to the crowd. "You're the one who brought a prop," I replied. Chloe flinched. Ethan's jaw tightened. "You still think you can embarrass me?" he spat, stepping closer. "After everything you pulled, HR, the board, the audit. After everything you did," I corrected. His nostrils flared. He looked around again, hunting for allies, for applause, for even one sympathetic face. He found none. The music dimmed for a beat DJ adjusting the track. In that momentary hush, Ethan snapped. "You locked me out of my home," he said, voice rising. "You sent lies about me to my company. You ruined my life, Lena." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. "I exposed your choices," I said. "You ruined your own life." That hit him. Hard. "You think you can just walk around like some victim?" he hissed. "You think these people care about you? They're pretending. They're all pretending." Funny, because that was exactly what they'd all done for him. He took a half step toward me, and immediately, Walter moved. He didn't touch Ethan. He didn't have to. He simply inserted himself, body slightly angled, a silent barrier of authority. Ethan barked a humorless laugh. "Seriously? The doorman? Lena, stop. This is pathetic." "Aw?" Before I could respond, another voice cut in. "Mr. Cole." We all turned. A man in a fitted gray coat stood near the bar, holding a glass of whiskey. His face was vaguely familiar. Then it clicked. Northbridge Capital. One of the executives who'd been on the email chain I'd sent. "Oh," Ethan said, straightening, smoothing his suit. "Brian, didn't know you lived here." "I don't," Brian said. "I was invited." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The implication hung in the cold air like smoke. Invited. By someone who wasn't Ethan. Ethan's smile twitched. "Well," he said, clearing his throat, "it's all a misunderstanding." Brian's brows rose. "Is that what we're calling financial misconduct these days?" Conversations around us stilled. Chloe sucked in a breath. Ethan's face drained. "You don't know the full story." "We know enough," Brian replied, "including that you listed your wife's inherited property as collateral without her consent." A hush rippled outward. Every whisper, every sidelong glance, every widening eye fuel for Ethan's unraveling. He snapped back to me. "You told them? You're trying to destroy me." "No," I said. "You tried to steal from me." He stepped forward again, but Walter and now a second doorman subtly closed ranks. Ethan was breathing fast, wild-eyed. "You don't get to do this," he shouted. "You don't get to own me, Lena. You don't get to tell me where I go or who I'm with." The exact words. The rooftop froze. Even the wind seemed to pause. Time folded in on itself. The hotel ballroom. The 17 seconds of laughter. The champagne glass trembling in my hand. And now here he was, repeating the same line like a man incapable of learning anything except how to dig deeper. I set my drink on the railing, the small click echoing louder than his voice. "You're right," I said, just loud enough for the nearest 50 people to hear. "I don't own you." Ethan blinked, thrown off by my calm. "And you don't own me," I continued. "Not my time, not my money, not my life, not my home." He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him interrupt. "You wanted freedom," I said. "So here it is, in front of everyone who ever mattered to you." That's when the shift happened. The crowd, silent, watching, pivoted toward me. Just slightly, imperceptibly. But enough for Ethan to feel it. Enough for him to understand he'd lost the room. He stumbled, grasping for control. "This isn't over," he hissed. "I'm going to take the condo. I'm going to take everything you have left." A voice rang out from behind him. "With what leverage, Ethan?" "Monica." And the look on his face said he'd just realized the final act wasn't his to direct. "With what leverage, Ethan?" Monica's voice cut through the frozen air, sharp as a gavel. Every head turned. Even the music seemed to dip, like the night itself leaned in to listen closer. She stood near the bar in a navy coat over a dark dress, hair pinned up, leather briefcase at her feet like a weapon. She looked like she'd walked straight out of a courtroom and onto the rooftop, dragging the law with her. Ethan tried to recover, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "And you are?" he said, even though he knew. "Monica Hale," she said, "Lena's attorney. The person you should be very grateful is drinking champagne instead of filing criminal charges tonight." A ripple moved through the crowd. Attorney. Criminal charges. Words that change how people look at you. Ethan laughed, too loudly. "Criminal charges? Give me a break. This is a domestic dispute, not fraud," Monica said, unbothered. "Misrepresentation. Breach of fiduciary duty. Shall I keep going?" My heart pounded not from fear, but vindication. This wasn't just my version anymore. This was official language being spoken out loud, in public, where he couldn't twist it. Ethan's face flushed. "You don't scare me. It's not abilities." Monica smiled, the kind of smile that promises bad things in neat envelopes. "I'm not here to scare you," she said. "I'm here to remind you that your leverage is gone. You lost your job. Your startup partner is under investigation. Your access to the condo has been legally revoked pending the divorce. And your attempt to use Lena's inheritance as collateral?" She shrugged. "Documented. Preserved. Gift-wrapped for the right agencies if needed." His gaze flicked around, searching for someone who might defend him. No one moved. No one spoke. For the first time, I saw it land for him. He was alone. Not just physically, socially. "You think these people care about your legal jargon?" he sneered. "They don't. They know me. They know what I've built." Evelyn lifted her glass. "They also know how fast a building falls when the foundation is rotten." A couple of people snorted into their drinks. Ethan whirled on her. "You don't know anything about me," he snapped. "Oh, I know plenty," she said calmly. "I keep better records than you do." He faltered. His eyes darted to me, then to Chloe, who was slowly peeling herself away from his side, as if realizing she'd strapped herself to a sinking ship. "You're all just jealous," he said, louder now, voice cracking. "You liked me when I was throwing parties and bringing in bonuses. Now one little misunderstanding and suddenly I'm the villain? One?" Jenna's voice floated from the opposite side of the crowd. I hadn't even seen her arrive. She stepped forward, phone in hand, because I counted at least 43 suspicious expense reports. Ethan's head jerked toward her. "You went through my files?" "It's my job," she said. "And I also know how to forward things to the SEC." The crowd murmured again. SEC. Another word that changed the air. Ethan's composure shattered another inch. "You can't all turn on me like this," he shouted, color climbing his neck. "You wouldn't even be on this roof if it weren't for me. I closed the Northbridge deal. I brought in clients. You used us," Brian from Northbridge cut in. He looked more tired than angry. "You used your position, your wife's money, your company's resources. You thought no one would notice as long as the numbers looked pretty." Ethan's mouth opened and closed. I watched, detached, and painfully present at once. This wasn't revenge for its own sake. This was the truth finally unspooling. Chloe cleared her throat. "Ethan." He looked at her sharply. "Not now." She flinched. And just like that, something inside me shifted. Not toward forgiveness, toward clarity about where this really ended. Don't talk to her like that, I said quietly. He barked a laugh. Oh, now you're defending her? I'm not defending her, I said. I'm defending the part of me that used to look exactly like that. Chloe's eyes filled. The wind whipped her hair across her face. She didn't move to fix it. This is ridiculous, Ethan said, dragging his gaze back to me. You think you've won because you humiliated me in front of a bunch of neighbors and a mid-level client? Mid-level? Brian murmured. Noted. Monica chuckled. This isn't about winning, I said. It's about ending something, publicly. So you can't rewrite it later. His face hardened. You think your little email blast changes who I am? No, I said. It just showed everyone who you've always been. The DJ lowered the music completely now, whether on purpose or because he sensed the climax building. People turned toward us, forming a loose circle. The night air bit at my skin. Adrenaline kept me warm. Ethan puffed up his chest one more time, clinging to the last story he had. Fine, he said. You know what? Take the condo. Take whatever you think you're owed. I'll start over. I always do. But I swear to God, Lena, I will destroy you in court. I will drag your name through the mud. Your father's too. I'll make sure you walk away with nothing. His voice cracked at the end. Threat curdled into plea. Before I could respond, Evelyn stepped forward, not between us, but slightly to my side, like she was joining my line. Mr. Cole, she said, tone flat and dangerous. You should really stop talking. Stay out of this, he snapped. I did, for months, she replied. I watched you parade your mistress through this building. I watched you lie in elevators, in hallways, on phone calls you thought no one could hear. I watched you curse at the woman who owns the apartment you bragged about. She tilted her head, and I watched Lena reach her limit without throwing a single plate. That's rare. He blinked. Your courtroom? Evelyn smiled slightly. Retired judge. Family and financial law. You picked the wrong rooftop. She turned her head. Walter? He straightened. Yes, Judge? Is Mr. Cole on the resident list? She asked. Walter glanced at the tablet. No, ma'am. Only Miss Brooks is listed as the owner of 21B. Mr. Cole's access was removed at her written request. Evelyn nodded. Thank you. Then she looked back at Ethan. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop threatening her in front of witnesses and cameras. He stiffened. Cameras? I watched realization hit as his eyes tracked the corners of the rooftop security domes glinting under the lights. Then his gaze dropped to the phones. At least 5 people were recording. Jenna's phone was up. So was Sarah from 14C's. Even the DJ had one hand on his mixer and the other pointed. This is harassment, Monica added. Possibly intimidation. Definitely not behavior that will help your case when we finalize the divorce terms. You can't prove. Monica lifted her own phone. The screen showed a waveform. Recording since you said you locked me out. Thanks for the clean opener, by the way. For a second, I thought he might actually lunge forward. Instead, he did what cowards do when cornered. He tried to turn it back into a performance. He raised his arms, addressing the crowd. Look at this, he shouted. Look how insane she's become. She turned all of you against me. She's got lawyers and judges and IT nerds framing me. You're all being manipulated. Nobody moved. Then, from somewhere near the back, a soft voice said, No, man, we just watched you. Laughter broke out. Not huge or cruel like at the Hilton. Quieter, cutting, controlled. The kind that says, We've seen enough. Ethan's eyes darted around, desperate. He looked at Chloe like she was his last lifeline. Tell them, he demanded. Tell them I'm not a monster. Tell them what Lena did to me. Chloe stared at him, lower lip trembling. Then she turned and looked at me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I held her gaze. Now you do. Tears spilled over her lashes. He said you were cold, controlling, that you treated him like a paycheck. That's funny, I said, because he treated me like one. A weak laugh rippled through the crowd. Chloe swallowed hard. He told me the condo was basically his, that you only had it because of his job. She shook her head slowly, like she was waking up from a bad dream. He lied about everything, didn't he? Yes, I said. She nodded once, wiped her cheeks, and gently pulled her arm out of his grip. His hand snapped out to grab her again. Chloe, don't... She flinched away as if he'd burned her. Don't touch me, she said. Her voice shook, but the words landed like steel. Don't ever touch me again. That got another reaction from the crowd, not laughter, not gasps, but a low murmur of approval. She took 2 steps back, then 3, then pivoted and walked toward the elevator. No dramatic hair flip, no lingering look, just a clean break. Watching her go, I felt a strange, unexpected emotion twist through my chest. Not empathy, not solidarity. Recognition. That's what it looks like, I thought. To choose yourself 1 minute too late, but not never. Ethan watched her disappear down the stairwell. When he turned back, something feral sparked in his eyes. "This isn't over," he hissed at me. "You think this little circus means you've won? I will find a way to get back in. You can't lock me out forever." He was wrong, but I didn't have to be the one to say it. Because just then, a microphone crackled to life. And Evelyn, of course, was the one holding it. The microphone feedback sliced through the rooftop, sharp enough to pull every drifting conversation back into a single orbit. Evelyn didn't look dramatic holding it. She looked intentional, like she'd been waiting for the exact second when the room's pulse dipped low enough for her voice to take over. "Residents," she said calmly. "May I have your attention?" The DJ turned his volume down instinctively. People shifted, forming a cleaner ring around us, the city skyline glittering behind them like an audience of 1,000,000 silent lights. Ethan froze mid-breath. He hadn't expected a microphone. He definitely hadn't expected a judge, retired or not, to take the floor. Evelyn continued, "Before midnight arrives, I'd like to offer a toast." She lifted her glass. It caught the warm bulbs overhead and fractured the light across her face. She turned slightly, including me in the edge of her frame. "A toast," she said, "to the women who finally remember they own their doors, their homes, their names, and their stories." Murmurs of assent drifted across the circle. "To the women who stand up," she said, "when silence has been weaponized against them. To the women who stop accepting apologies built from the same excuses. To the women who choose themselves." She faced me fully. "To Lena." My lungs tightened. I hadn't expected my name to be spoken aloud. Not here. Not like that. Evelyn wasn't finished. "And a reminder," she added, gaze shifting back to Ethan with surgical precision. "Truth is louder than volume. Integrity is stronger than rage. And tonight, on this rooftop, clarity will win over chaos." People raised their glasses. The collective motion was slow, almost reverent. Ethan couldn't stand it. He lunged toward the microphone. "Give me that," he snapped. Walter moved first, blocking him with a solid shoulder. Ethan stumbled back, humiliated again. His face twisted, rage spiraling into something unhinged. "You're all insane," he shouted. "This is a setup. You're letting this consultant manipulate you." He didn't get further, because the elevator doors opened behind him with a soft chime, and out stepped Noah. My brother walked onto the rooftop, wearing a black jacket and jeans, holding a thick manila folder under one arm. He wasn't dressed for a party, he was dressed for delivery, the kind that ends arguments. Ethan swung around, startled. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded. "I was invited," Noah said simply. He didn't look at Ethan again. He walked straight to me, handed me the folder, and stood at my back like he'd been rehearsing this for months. The air shifted. Ethan laughed shakily. "Oh, please. What are we doing, family story time now? Nobody cares about your brother's opinion." "He's not here for his opinion," I said, opening the folder. "He's here for documentation." Ethan went pale. Noah crossed his arms. "Dad told me to keep the originals, in case someone ever tried to twist the truth." "This is ridiculous," Ethan snapped. "This is personal. This isn't—" "It's relevant," Monica cut in, stepping closer, "because someone in your camp attempted to blackmail Lena using false allegations about her father. That's not just immoral, that's illegal." Ethan sputtered. "I didn't, Logan." "No," Monica said. "You don't get to hide behind Logan. Not anymore." I pulled out the first page, my father's signed statement from years ago, the one where he documented the construction company's safety violations and refused to be part of the cover-up. I held it up. "This," I said, "is who raised me. A man who wouldn't falsify reports even to protect himself. A man who lost jobs because he chose integrity." I lowered the page. "You are not that man." Something cracked in Ethan's expression. His chest rose and fell too fast, like he couldn't get enough air. "Why are you doing this to me?" he whispered. "Why are you trying to hold you accountable?" I asked. "Because nobody else ever has." He pressed both hands to his head. "You can't do this. You can't paint me as the villain. I supported you. I gave you everything." "You took everything," I said. "I rebuilt myself. Don't confuse the two." He opened his mouth, but Jenna stepped forward, holding her phone like evidence. "You want to talk about who gave what?" she asked. "Because I can list every unauthorized transfer you made, every off-books request, Every misleading expense report. Ethan stared at her. You're an IT girl. I'm an analyst, she corrected. And I have logs, Brian from Northbridge added. And we've already forwarded your financial discrepancies to compliance. It's not looking good, Ethan. Ethan shook his head violently. None of this is real. This is an ambush. You're all letting her twist the story. I stepped closer, not aggressively, but with the stillness of someone done running. You humiliated me in a ballroom, I said quietly. You stole from me. You lied to me. You lied about me. You tried to take what my father left me. And when I stopped covering for you, you tried to destroy my reputation to save your own. He stared at me like he didn't recognize the person speaking. You turned me into this, he whispered. No, I replied. I just stopped protecting you. The rooftop fell silent. Then Chloe re-emerged. She must have been standing inside the stairwell, listening. Her mascara was smudged, but her posture straighter than before. She walked up beside me. Not close, but aligned. Ethan, she said softly. You told me Lena abused you. You told me she was unstable. You told me she gambled away your money. He swallowed hard. Chloe, we can talk later. No, she said. We're talking now. Her voice steadied. You told me you owned the condo. You said she was trying to steal it from you. She looked at me. You said she mistreated you. I said nothing. This wasn't my testimony to give. Chloe's eyes glistened. But I've seen the footage. I've seen the emails. I know now that none of that was true. Ethan's jaw trembled. Please, he whispered. Don't do this. I have to, she said. Because what you did to her, you did parts of it to me too. She turned to me fully. I'll testify, she said. Whatever you need. I'm done letting him rewrite what happened. I nodded once respectful, grateful, but without theatrics. She stepped back into the crowd, no longer shielding him. Ethan spun in a circle, scanning faces that no longer softened for him. You're monsters, he shouted. All of you. You're ruining my life over a misunderstanding. You're letting her manipulate you. This is crazy. Enough. It was the first time Walter raised his voice. It hit the air like a bolt. He stepped forward, posture iron straight. Mr. Cole, he said slowly, you are no longer a resident here. You have been removed from the access list. Your presence is creating a disturbance. You can't kick me out, Ethan spat. Walter didn't blink. Security will escort you out if necessary. Ethan laughed, a hollow sound. Security? You think you can drag me out of my home? It's not your home, I said. Prove it, he yelled. I didn't move. Monica spoke instead. We already have. County records list Lena as the sole owner. Your attempt to transfer the deed was unsigned, unauthorized, and illegal. You have no financial or legal claim. His face twisted. This is outrageous. I'll fight it. I'll drag this through court. No, I said softly. Something in my tone made him stop. You won't, I continued, because you know what happens if this goes to trial. Discovery, witnesses, financial audits, public records, compliance reports. And these, I tapped the folder. These documents go to the press. He paled. This is checkmate, Ethan, I said, and I didn't have to cheat. A collective exhale spread around us. The city lights glowed brighter, or maybe everything around me finally cleared. Ethan's voice cracked. Lena, please, we can fix this. No, I said. You can't fix something you never intended to keep. He stumbled back. You're heartless. I'm healed, I corrected. A countdown started somewhere behind us, 10 seconds to midnight. People lifted their phones, their flutes, their voices. Ethan looked at me one last time. You can't do this, he said weakly. I already did. Walter gestured toward the elevator. 2 security guards stepped forward, not aggressively, just firmly enough to make the reality land. The crowd parted. For the first time since I'd met him, Ethan looked small. A man shrinking into the consequences he built. He allowed himself to be guided away. The elevator doors closed with a soft, final thud. Midnight struck. The rooftop burst into cheers, fireworks exploding across the skyline, but I stood still, breath steady, heart anchored. I wasn't celebrating the new year. I was celebrating the end. Behind me, Evelyn lifted her glass again. To beginnings, she said. I whispered back. To endings that free us. And for the first time in a long time, it felt true. The morning after the rooftop confrontation felt unreal, too quiet, too still, like the city was holding its breath. I woke before sunrise, the sky outside my windows stained a deep violet, My apartment felt lighter, as if the walls themselves had finally unclenched. Ethan was gone, physically removed, socially exposed, legally cornered, but the real battle wasn't over. Not yet. I made coffee the way I liked it, not the way he insisted for years, and sat at the dining table with Monica's notes spread out like a map of a war we'd already won, but still had to document. She arrived at 7:10 a.m., sharp, wearing a charcoal suit and carrying a binder thick enough to stop a bullet. "Morning," she said, shrugging off her coat. "Congratulations on surviving last night without being pushed off the roof." I smirked. Tempting, though. She sat across from me, folding her hands. "Now the real part begins. Today we prepare the countermove." "Meaning?" She slid the binder toward me. Inside were labeled tabs, expense reports, email logs, startup LLCS, deed attempt, witness list, digital forensics. "This," she said, "is your insurance against Ethan trying to rise from the ashes." I flipped through the pages. Each section was precise, time-stamped, annotated receipts, transfers, messages, even Ethan's voicemails transcribed with brutal accuracy. "You worked fast," I murmured. She tapped one page. Jenna worked faster. She pulled metadata from Ethan's deleted emails. Logan thought erasing messages covered his tracks. He forgot about auto-sync backups. I scanned a thread between Ethan and Logan from 2 months earlier. "If we can shift the penthouse before Q4, we can leverage it against the bridge loan. Lena won't notice. She's too busy consulting. You handle her. I'll handle the paperwork." My stomach clenched, not from surprise, but from the clarity of their intent. This had never been a misunderstanding. It had been a plan. Monica pointed to another section. "And here's the fun part." Jenna traced 3 private messages from Logan to Chloe, pressuring her to keep Ethan emotionally compliant, encouraging her to isolate Lena. He called her a risk reduction asset. I shut the binder. "So he manipulated all of us." "All of you," she corrected. But not for much longer. There was a knock on the door. "Walter." He stepped inside with his usual quiet confidence and handed me a small USB drive. "This is the footage you might need," he said. "Hallway, lobby, rooftop entrances. I flagged the segments relevant to last night." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. "People like him don't stop unless someone stops them," he said. "You're doing that." When he left, Monica leaned back in her chair. "We have evidence, witnesses, digital logs, surveillance, financial records, your father's documentation." "And Chloe?" My brows lifted. "She texted you?" "No. She emailed me at 3 a.m. with a statement. She's joining the witness list." I sat with that for a moment. Not forgiveness, but justice gaining traction. "So what now?" I asked. Monica smiled a small, lethal smile. "Now we make sure Ethan signs the settlement without theatrics, because if he refuses, we open every file to the court. And if that happens, we don't just win, he loses in ways that will follow him for the next decade." An unexpected calm settled over me. "You think he'll fight?" I asked. "No," Monica said. "He'll bluff, he'll bluster, he'll cry. But fight? No. Fighting requires leverage, and he has none left." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, Monica's phone buzzed too. She checked the screen, then rolled her eyes. "Don't answer," she said. "Let me pull transcripts later." Another buzz, then another. "Persistent," I murmured. "Panicked," Monica corrected. I stood and walked to the window. Sunrise broke over the skyline in gold shards. Down on the street, people started their day without any idea that the biggest shift in my life had just begun. A second knock. This time, Noah. He walked in, dropped a paper bag on the counter, and said, "Bagels. Lawyer fuel." Monica gave him a small salute. "Bless you." He looked at me carefully. "How you holding up?" I exhaled. "Lighter than I expected." "Good," he said. "Then you're ready." "For what?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a second folder. This one thinner but heavier somehow. Dad's deposition. The full one. My throat tightened. "You found it?" "It was misfiled in storage. Probably on purpose. But it's clean." He cleared his own name. "You get to carry that with you now." I sank into a chair. For a moment, the room blurred. Not from grief. Grief had been processed long ago, but from something closer to vindication. Dad had fought back, and now I was finishing the job. When I looked up, Monica was already flipping through the pages. "This," she said, "goes into our arsenal." Arsenal. Yes, that's what this was. Not revenge. Not spite. Defense. So, Monica said, closing the binder. Our countermove is simple. We take the truth, every piece of it, and place it where Ethan can't knock it over. And when he realizes there's no escape route, he'll take the deal. I folded my hands. What if he doesn't? Her smile sharpened to a blade. Then we finish what last night started. The mediation didn't happen in a courtroom or some dark paneled legal office. It happened in a mid-rise building downtown with beige carpet, bad art, and a coffee machine that hissed like it was dying. Somehow, that made it feel even colder. Ethan arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a suit that didn't fit anymore. Shoulders sagging, sleeves too long, tie crooked. He walked in with a look people wear when they still believe, somehow, that charm can save them. That the right smile, the right tone, will erase weeks of wreckage. He glanced at me like he expected softness. Recognition. Nostalgia. I kept my face still. He sat across the table and whispered, "We can fix this, Lena. Don't do this." Monica didn't even look up from her papers. "Please refrain from speaking directly to my client." He exhaled hard, eyes flicking between us. The mediator, a calm, gray-haired woman named Sylvia, opened the folder in front of her. "We're here to review financial claims, property division, and terms of dissolution. Let's begin." Ethan leaned back like this was beneath him. "Fine. I want half of the condo, half of the inheritance, and half—" Monica slid a document toward him. "Before you go on, please read this." He glanced at the first page, then the second. His expression cracked instantly the way ice on a lake cracks when the temperature turns. Lines of text reflected in his eyes. Email logs, bank transfers, deleted messages, Chloe's statement, the rooftop footage, the LLC paperwork tying the condo to Logan, his own handwritten notes about leverage. He slammed the folder shut. "This is illegal. You can't take my private emails." "Wrong," Monica said. "They were on a company device, and your company cooperated fully." Sylvia cleared her throat gently. "Mr. Cole, it would be best if you reviewed all evidence before proposing terms." He pointed at Monica, voice cracking. "You don't understand. Logan handled the paperwork. I didn't know." Monica placed a second folder in front of him. "You did. Here's your signature." Twice, color drained from his face, not theatrically, quietly, like blood evacuating a collapsing structure. He whispered. "Logan said. He said he'd take the fall." "Logan fled to Miami yesterday morning," Monica said. "His phone is off. His email auto-replies. He won't save you." A tremor went through him. The man who once strutted through rooms like he owned the air around him now sat shrunken, reduced, cornered. He tried to gather himself. "Fine. You want to play rough? I'll tell the court about her father." "You mean the deposition filed with the state ethics board?" Monica asked. "The one clearing him entirely?" He froze. I met his eyes. "You should have checked the facts before weaponizing dead men." His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Monica folded her hands. "Let's get to the terms. Lena keeps 100% of the condo, 100% of the inheritance, 100% of shared assets. She retains the vehicle, the accounts, the investments, all of it." He laughed short, hysterical. "You think I'm signing that? I'm not stupid." "No," Monica said, "but the fraud division is very busy. If we file a complaint outlining your actions, you'll be high on their list. And trust me, your employer will hand them everything." Sylvia looked at Ethan gently. "You may request leniency, but the evidence is extensive." He rubbed his forehead. "I can't walk away with nothing." "You can walk away with your freedom," Monica said. "That's more than you deserve." He stared at me. Really stared. Like he was only just seeing the person sitting across from him. Not the woman who made his coffee. Not the buffer. Not the narrative he'd built for himself. Just me, quiet, steady, and done. "I loved you," he whispered. "No," I said softly. "You loved the life I built. There's a difference." His chin quivered. "Lena, please, you've made your point." "This isn't a point," I said. "This is accountability." Something in him buckled. Shoulders slumped. Defeat settling over him like wet cement. "Fine," he muttered. "Give me the damn pen." He signed. Each stroke of ink felt like a lock clicking shut, not trapping me, but sealing him out. When it was done, the mediator gathered the papers. Monica closed her file. I stood, gathering my things. Ethan stayed seated, staring at the table like it held the ruins of a life he never truly built. As I reached the door, he said, "Was I really that terrible?" I paused. "Not for him, for me. To honor the truth." "You weren't a monster," I said. You were a man who thought consequences were optional. I walked out without looking back. Outside, the air felt different, crisp, bright, almost sharp against my skin. Monica joined me on the sidewalk. That, she said, was checkmate. I looked up at the sky. No, that was closure. And as we crossed the street, sunlight glinted off the silver bracelet on my wrist, the one Dad gave me. A reminder, a promise, a symbol that locked doors could open again, as long as the person inside chose to walk out. The day the judge finalized the dissolution of my marriage was unremarkable to everyone except me. No thunder, no cinematic rain, no dramatic gasps in the courtroom. Just a wooden gavel, a stack of paperwork, and a quiet, case concluded, echoing off beige walls that smelled faintly of old carpet and government-grade coffee. But walking out of that courthouse, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Air. Real air. Air that moved without permission. Air that didn't check Ethan's mood before deciding whether it could exist. Monica hugged me outside the steps, her briefcase wedged between us like a shield she refused to lower. "You're free," she said simply. Free. The word slid under my ribs and expanded like light filling an abandoned room. I didn't go home right away. I walked, blocks and blocks, until downtown Minneapolis thinned into calmer streets, until the snow turned from slush to powder. I passed a bakery, bought a croissant. I only half ate, sat on a bench, and listened to the world without flinching. No footsteps behind me, no phone buzzing with another demand, no voice rehearsed to sound disappointed in me. For the first time in 12 years, silence felt peaceful, not punitive. When I finally returned to the apartment, Walter greeted me with that small, knowing smile he reserved for moments when words would ruin things. "Feels different, doesn't it?" he said. I nodded. "Yeah, it does." Upstairs, the elevator doors slid open to a hallway that felt wider, brighter. I unlocked 21B, my lock, my code, my rules, and stepped into a home that finally matched my heartbeat. The first thing I did was clean, not out of bitterness, but out of instinct. I opened windows, even though the air bit at my skin. I moved furniture. I donated the dining table Ethan insisted on because important people need seating. I repainted the wall above the fireplace, a deep, grounding moss green. I put plants everywhere, snake plants, pothos, a fiddle-leaf fig that almost reached the ceiling. A home should breathe. This one finally could. It took weeks to reshape the space, months to reshape myself. Morning routines became rituals instead of obligations. I brewed coffee the way I liked it, one sugar, oat milk, hotter than Ethan ever tolerated. I didn't make a second cup out of habit. I didn't set a mug on the counter for someone who treated affection like a transaction. I played music again, loud, the kind with drums that thump in your chest like a second heartbeat. The kind Ethan always called chaotic. I read books in bed without checking the clock. I walked barefoot on the hardwood he hated. I cooked messy dinners that overflowed pans and left herbs scattered across the counter. There were nights I cried quietly, unexpectedly when I found one of Ethan's shirts I'd missed in a drawer, or a forgotten receipt folded into an old coat. Not because I wanted him back, but because grief isn't always about the person. Often, it's about the version of yourself you abandoned to keep them. Evelyn stopped by every Thursday with a bottle of wine and 2 crystal glasses older than both of us. She'd sit cross-legged on my rug, pointing out constellations of red flags I'd normalized. "We teach girls to endure," she'd say, handing me more wine. But endurance is not the same as love. Slowly, the Lock Club took shape. It started with 3 women from the building, a software engineer, a nurse, and a graduate student, all with stories that rhymed with mine, different lyrics, same melody. They gathered in my living room on Tuesday nights, sharing tea, swapping resources, comparing strategies for leaving quietly or loudly. By the end of spring, there were 12 of us. By early summer, 21. Women from the building, women from nearby buildings, women brought by friends of friends, each one walking in with tension in her shoulders and leaving with something lighter, sometimes hope, sometimes clarity, sometimes just a name of a lawyer or a locksmith. It wasn't therapy. It wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. Northbridge Capital hired me in May. My role, rebuild their internal ethics and compliance system, the very area Ethan risked turning into a personal playground of fraud. The CEO shook my hand and said, "We don't want the man who almost cost us a lawsuit. We want the woman who stopped him." I didn't smile, but I allowed myself a quiet inhale of pride. My consulting business tripled within months. I hired 2 assistants, then 3. I started turning down clients. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I could choose, maybe for the first time ever. Summer melted into autumn, and one crisp morning, I found myself standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows of 21B, coffee in hand, watching the city wake. Car lights blinked through fog, a bus sighed at the corner. Somewhere below, a dog barked at a squirrel. This was the life I built, not inherited from Ethan, not held hostage by him. Built piece by piece, decision by decision. I touched the bracelet on my wrist, the one Dad gave me before he died. The silver warmed instantly under my fingers. He would have liked this version of me. The one who didn't apologize for existing. The one who locked doors not out of fear, but out of discernment. The one who finally understood that independence isn't the absence of people. It's the presence of self. By October, the city had shifted into that in-between season, halfway leafless, halfway gold, where the air stings just enough to remind you you're alive. Tuesday mornings became my favorite. It used to be the day Ethan cheated, the day my marriage hollowed out under fluorescent hotel lights. Now, it was the day women reclaimed their names, Lock Club Tuesday. I'd wake at 6, stretch beneath my soft cotton sheets, and listen to the hum of the building. Somewhere above, someone brewed coffee. Somewhere below, a faucet squeaked. Routine noises, but they felt different now, like I was part of a world again, not trapped in a man's orbit. I'd brew my own coffee, exactly how I liked it. 1 sugar, oat milk, no compromise, no adjusting to someone else's bitterness. Then I'd open the windows, letting in the cool air that fluttered the pages of the book on my kitchen island. I lived gently now, deliberately. Not cautiously, not defensively, deliberately. By 9, women started arriving. Some with puffy eyes, some with nervous smiles, some with a determination that sparked in the air like electricity. We sat in my living room, sometimes on chairs, sometimes cross-legged on the rug. I always lit the same cinnamon candle, not to erase memories of Ethan's cologne lingering in the walls, but to overwrite them. We talked about everything: money, gaslighting, legal options, safety plans, confidence, silence breaking, patterns we wished someone had warned us about at 19. No judgment, no hierarchy, just truth shared without fear of consequence. Evelyn would arrive fashionably late, wearing one of her silk scarves and carrying a manila folder stuffed with pamphlets and case references. She never lectured. She just illuminated things, shined light on patterns most of us had only sensed in the dark. Women underestimate their ability to leave, she'd say. Men overestimate their ability to keep them. There was a quiet power in hearing a retired judge say that. After each session, someone always stayed behind. Sometimes it was a woman needing help drafting a plan to leave. Sometimes just someone who needed a place to cry for 10 minutes before going back to a life still in transition. My apartment became a landing pad, a place women touched down before flying somewhere safer. And somewhere along the way, without planning it, without noticing it, I rebuilt myself too. The nightmares faded. The sudden jolts awake at 2 a.m. became less frequent. My breath slowed easily again. One morning, while typing up a proposal for Northbridge, I realized I hadn't thought of Ethan in 3 full days. Not with anger, not with fear, not even with curiosity. He'd become irrelevant, a fading outline in a chapter I'd already written to completion. That's what healing looks like, not fireworks, not ceremonies. Just the quiet absence of pain where it used to sit. In late October, Linda asked to meet. I almost said no, but something in her voice, thin, almost fragile, made me agree. She came to 21B with a small box wrapped in navy paper. When I let her in, she didn't look around like she used to, searching for imperfections to fix. She just exhaled, long and weary. "I wasn't a good mother to him," she said. "And I wasn't kind to you. I need to say that out loud." I didn't say anything. Some truths need room. She held out the box. "These belong to his grandmother," she said. "I should have given them to you when you married into this family. I didn't because I thought you were temporary." The words stung less than I expected. I opened the box later, after she left. Inside was a sapphire ring, deep blue, nearly black in low light. Heavy, elegant. A piece of history passed through hands that never believed I deserved it until now. I didn't wear it. Not yet. But I kept it because not every heirloom is a burden. Some are apologies shaped like jewels. By November, my apartment felt fully mine. Every corner reorganized, every drawer reclaimed. I added a reading nook beside the window, bought a new mug shaped like a mountain range, rearranged my books alphabetically, something Ethan always mocked as obsessive. One evening, after hosting a Lock Club potluck, I stood alone in the quiet, looking at the reflections in my windows. Women laughing, women exhaling, women holding onto pieces of themselves they'd nearly dropped. And I realized, survival isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning. The moral didn't arrive all at once. It came slowly, in fragments, in the steady calm of choosing myself, in the dignity of closing doors behind me, in the clarity of realizing I didn't need to burn bridges, just stop crossing them. Healing wasn't revenge. Revenge wasn't the goal. Peace was, and peace, once you taste it, ruins you for chaos forever. On the first snowfall of the season, I woke early, made coffee, and walked to the window. The city shimmered, white dust settling onto street lamps and rooftops. I opened the smart lock app on my phone. Access list: Lena Brooks, Noah Brooks, Evelyn Grant. 3 names, 3 keys, no intrusions. I touched my father's bracelet, warm from sleep, and whispered, "To locks that keep me safe, not stuck." Before I let you go, if you've ever rebuilt yourself from the ground up, subscribe. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own home, hit like and stay tuned. Because my story, it's not finished yet.